Grind Gang, welcome back. Here we are for the next season of the Grind Life. And today we have the amazing Andrew with us. So, Andrew is a business builder, a leader, a father, and a marriage celebrant. How are you today?
I am great. And as we say across this side of the ditch, kia ora. Great to be here.
Yes, you may notice he has a Kiwi accent. Aren't they great? So, we are going to get stuck into a few questions today for the podcast, and it is all about managing the grind. But firstly, you probably need to know a little bit about Andrew and what he's about and what sort of grind he has to manage for his day to day life. So, Andrew, is there anything in particular you wanted to start off with first about your career that you wanted to share?
Well, my career has always been in the insurance industry. So I guess what I'd like to fess up to is don't turn off too early because people can tend to do that when they hear about insurance. There are some little nuggets in there, and it's a little bit more interesting than you think. And once you're in, you don't really get out.
Awesome. Awesome. So, with your career journey, you've certainly held some really big roles. You've been president, CEO, you're building out a business. So, I guess, how did you work your way up to be a leader?
Yeah, really interesting becoming a leader. And for a lot of us, we start work and I had no concept that I was going to be a leader. I mean, for me, it was about forging my first role out of uni, and it happened to be in insurance. And then it's about, okay, how much money can I make in a job? And then
Good.
it's, okay, good, money. Then I need to do some study. I've just been to uni, but I need to do some study to progress a career. Good, do that very quickly. Then it's about, oh, can I get big clients to look after? Tick. And then we move into the maybe I could get promoted. Maybe I could become a senior something or even a manager without knowing what that was. And then over the years, as that's progressed, and as you say, it was like going into becoming a CEO of an insurance company and a senior leader in broking firms. Now, from a leadership and moving forward, going up the rungs, it's actually about what I see those around me developing and doing. So it's almost, I'm not so old that I'm in a rocking chair every day at work, but it's giving back and seeing others now grow. And then by supporting me and thereby being the next generation to take over.
Awesome. So, it sounds like you really like the development side of developing other people. So, do you have a bit of a structure around that, or is any tricks of how you can find top talent?
Finding top talent in the insurance industry can sometimes be fraught with danger. But I think it's about really listening to people and making connections in a variety of different avenues within the industry. When young people come in, the ability to sit down with them at certain events, certain workshops, conferences, and you start to understand, who's got ability, who's there for just a career and then maybe just a job, or those that really want to push on. Those that are willing to learn and develop, I think, is critical in our industry, particularly where we are getting more regulation as well. So, gone are the days where you can be the old cowboy and sell insurance to anyone in any way you liked. You can't do that anymore. People willing to learn and develop throughout their career is a real key advantage as you see that talent come through.
Oh, good. Yeah. And probably a good thing there can't be cowboys anymore.
No, no.
Brilliant. Awesome. So, have you had any really tough leadership calls that you've had to make?
I've had tough calls where I've had to not promote people that were my friends
No, that's
in
tough
an
as well.
organization. Yeah. Where I was a colleague and then I became the boss. And then, not that they expect it, but those are tough calls to make to people who are more than just a colleague.
Yeah.
Those were tough calls. I think making tough calls, some of the key to that really is around both being prepared. It's around enlisting advice from those that trust in your circle. And then it's being confident in making that decision. So that whomever I was talking to in those examples, they're not going to necessarily like it, but they certainly felt they've been taken on a journey in conversation or process where they've been dealt with fairly. And then you hope you still have that friendship at the end, which thankfully, in the circumstances I'm thinking of, I have.
Oh, good. That's awesome. And it sounds like you've got quite a good support network of other leaders around you as well.
Yes. And I think the key there really is around not just the same industry as well.
Okay.
So I have network connections within the insurance broking side, the insurance company side, loss adjusting, legal. So all the different parts that build out a wider insurance perspective. And then I would have a couple of, not mentors, not by any significant way, but people that I trust that aren't in the industry where you can bounce an idea off on a confidential basis. I think that blend has served me well so far.
Wonderful. That's really good to hear. Now, did you want to talk about the industry changing? Like you've mentioned that there's no more cowboys and there's a lot more regulation and compliance. Did you want to talk a bit more about that?
Great question and very topical. I mean, I don't know. Depending what side of business you're in, regulation bores the living daylights out of me. But I get it. Now, I just want to deal with clients, deal with people, provide solutions, and help people manage risk. Right? And we're now within the framework, and that is life. Where we're heading, if that's all in play, then where we're heading now and the things that are starting to really, in recent years and certainly going forward, to disrupt what we're thinking about selling insurance, certainly is around cyber and cyber risk that can affect someone's life, someone's business in traumatic ways, more than just their building burns down, which everyone thinks they should insure for, which they should. But how do you protect yourself against a cyber attack? So cyber. Second one would be climate change. So we've got a few classics in there that affect our industry from fires and floods and events that are occurring that have never occurred before, nor never occurred so regularly, that affect what insurance, A, can you buy it, and B, it becomes more expensive. And then I think the third piece would be artificial intelligence. Not so much. I think there is some real upside in terms of what it can help us do. Say it can save us time. It can come up with really cool questions. But what I don't think we want it to do is to take away the people element of our industry. We always talk about it. I mean, every industry would say it, but insurance for sure is a relationship business. Whether it's within the industry to an insurance company, to an insurance broker, or a broker to a client, etc. It's very much around that relationship and those connections. So there's a lot of upside, but it should never take away from that personal piece.
Awesome. Well, yeah, because we can use AI for a lot of things, certainly coming up with questions. And it's interesting as well. So in Australia, you're obviously across the ditch at the moment, but in Australia at the moment, like not even an hour away from where I live, there's bushfires that have been burning for a few weeks. They're saying it's going to be another 4 weeks. You've got the LA bushfires, which are all over the news. But then up in Queensland, they're absolutely being flooded out and they're expected to have more. So it's certainly an industry where you've got to make some tough calls and decisions on people's insurance as well, which I'm sure you've got all the I'll pronounce it wrong, actuarialists.
Yeah, that's well played. Just don't try and spell it.
No.
No, you're right. And to translate what the actuaries come up with, that an insurance company decides to charge, that insurance brokers then got to tell a client about, sometimes that's a very difficult conversation to have and to explain it. I mean, I remember when, September 11 occurred and the Twin Towers fell, and there was a huge ripple effect through the global insurance market. And so someone has an insurance premium in Greymouth, New Zealand, and all of a sudden there's an increase in their premium because of two buildings that fell over in New York. You know, it's inextricably linked, and how we translate that is sometimes quite difficult, but that's the future. And as individuals, break it down into our own personal lives, we have to think about, unfortunately, where we live and what we're living in. Because unless we've got so much money to throw around, it doesn't matter if it burns or floods, we usually have a mortgage and we need a bank. If you don't have insurance, you can't really get either. So the reality, unfortunately, is climate change is starting to, whether you believe it's climate change or not, that's the reality of these events are occurring more often. It's sadly the way it is.
Yes. My dad likes to say that it's just cyclical and it's just going to keep happening. It's not climate change. He's 84 though, so we'll let him go. Awesome. Awesome. So, on to more of obviously bringing it back to you personally and not just about your job, but on
Mm.
your personal mindset and your, I guess, balancing it all together. Um, so, I know you a little bit, not very well, but how do you manage to fit in? You need to look after your health as well. So, do you have quite a set structure of the way that you look after your physical and mental health?
I like a lot of structure, but I'll come back to those parts that aren't. So for me, yes, you're right. I always like during the week and weekends, but during the week when we're talking work week, alarm will go off at 4:30 every morning. I'm up, changed, and out at the gym at 5. And where I live currently, it's a 5-minute walk. That hour of whatever I'm doing at the gym and then the walk back is really incredibly actually important to me, both physically and also my mental state to start the day. It's music blaring, I'm an 80s child, that sort of stuff. And it just gets me set and resets for the day. And then I'm off. As long as there's a coffee at some point in that first couple of hours and I've had some eggs or protein, the day has started well and I'm ready to rock and roll with the structure that follows during the day for work. Insurance industry, you can have set meetings, but anything can suddenly occur that throws your day into disarray. So if I can get that structure right, that doesn't happen, then I feel like my day hasn't really started properly.
Right. So that's are you office based every day? Like 5 days a week in the
Yeah, I'm five
office?
days a week, and yeah, I'm a absolute work in the office guy.
Yep.
Feed off the energy of people. It's close to where the clients are, and it
Yep.
makes total sense for me. So that's good. So short ride into work, and away we go. So I'm usually in the office about 7. Turn on the off the alarm, and away we go. Mm.
First one in. So does
Yeah,
that help with creating some boundaries between work and home life, being in the office, do you think?
I think so. I think for me, I know there's thousands of people around the world that can do it the other way and do it successfully. But for me, if I've got to work from home for a particular reason, which is not very often, I get a bit grumpy on it because I like to have. It just provides that natural barrier so that when I get
Yeah.
home, I'm into a different world, and in the
Okay.
role I'm in now, I've got a really good work life balance where predominantly I can get home, and then when I'm at home, I'm focusing on the things that are a more personal nature, family, outside interests, than I am getting straight home, having a quick glass of vino and getting straight back on the laptop for 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, but it's hard to switch off when you're at home, so I agree with you on that one. So your daily habits sound like they're pretty well ingrained for you, and I know you went through a big change recently with changing roles and things as well. Um, did your routine really help set you up for success during that period?
Yes, it did. Yeah, and importantly, I followed it through to make sure that those were the rocks that sort of set up my day, my week, the way I sort of function, and it's the ability to carry that on into the next role
Yeah.
was obviously really important, and it's worked extremely well so far over the last 12 months.
Awesome. Fantastic. So we're talking about your daily habits, but really we're also talking about career as well. So you've had a really successful career. So does your definition of success still feel the same as perhaps what it did 12 months ago now that you're in a different role, trying something different, still in the same industry?
Hmm. No, that's a good. Dwelling on it now. You go back 12 months, success looked probably different in terms of I was the head of the business in New Zealand. The next level of success would have been moving overseas into a different role. That comes with its own opportunities and challenges. Where I am now, success, there is the ability to get promoted to grow into higher roles, breadth of roles, before I'd need to consider some sort of overseas move. So I think the success has been refined a bit differently from the last role to the current role in a really positive way. It sort of feels like it's revitalized the career a little bit. After having worked somewhere for 9 years in that sort of high pressure situation, you come into something fresh and new, and a totally different challenge with no one reporting to you where you had 60 before. And you can just take ownership and go for this thing and make a name for yourself. It's quite
So
exciting, really.
that is exciting. So it's a growth business that you're working in at the moment?
Yes, it is. Yes, we have 60 plus network brokers around the country, all individually owned, but all part of our network. And my role as head of broking is to help support them grow their business, interact with the insurance marketplace, develop learning and development, training, technical ways and advice tools just to make the, as we call it, the boat go faster or the waka go faster over here. And which is extremely exciting. You know, I'm learning so much about business and I'm learning so much about people and how people react in different ways across multiple businesses and layers. Not saying I'm going to write a book one day, but you know,
You might.
I might. It does help with the old speaking circuit.
So then on the other side of success or one of the other areas of success, so I know family is quite important to you as well. So do you have other areas that you probably measure quite differently with what success looks like? Because you've obviously got an amazing family. I've joined it.
You have, and aren't we the better for it? We really are. We really are. It, the challenge with, you know, going up the ladder, forging a career is many of us, and I'm in it, not all, there is time taken away from family.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a balance at various times in your career. Sometimes it's really, really good. It works. Sometimes it's up and down. And it's just around having a supportive family that help you through that and what the benefits to me and to them are ultimately going forward. So for me, with 4 adult children, 3 grandchildren, there's that getting home from work, weekend, holidays, the opportunity to really connect. You know, I have a weekly message I send out to the 4 kids on Messenger, just updating what my week's about, little pep talk from dad,
Oh, that's
which
awesome.
is cool. And then on the other hand, or not the other hand, but you know, number of times they've said to me or in birthday cards, one of the first things they'll write is, "Dad, we're so proud of you. You work so hard." Now I could
Oh,
look at that and go, "Bless him," which of course brings me to a little teary moment. Or sometimes it makes me think, was I always present? You know, I don't want to be the dad that they never saw, and I don't think I've done that, but it's
no.
easy to slip into that situation. So for me, where I am now, where all the kids are growing up, my youngest daughter, who's nearly 22, she lives with me in the apartment. It's connecting back in as they're going and forging their own careers and lives and creating the next generation. That you know, I'm there for them as a dad and a granddad, as well as balancing that career now.
Yeah. And also another thing you do as well, you have your marriage celebrant work and you just mentioned your speaking gigs as well. So how do you go about fitting it all in? Do you do a 3-month plan or how do you make sure you
I
can get it all keep
Yeah, I
going?
do. I do. Yeah, get the diary going on, plan out, you know, 1 month, 3 months, 12 months, and working through what those are. I mean, the celebrant work is actually, and I saw read something the other day, has quietened off a bit for a lot of celebrants. You know, there is a statistic that says, you know, there's less
Oh, well.
people actually getting married. And talking to some people, they'll just elope, save some money, and then do something different. So, but it is so much fun. I mean,
I bet.
honestly, I've ticked over just about 100 weddings. I've taken probably 90 odd of people I've never met until I take their wedding, but
Amazing.
it's their special day, and you get to play a part in the wedding. On occasion, you're there for a quick glass of bubbles at the end and meet and greet. or possibly the odd reception, particularly for friends of the kids who it's this next generation I'm taking with the weddings of. But oh, how good is that? So that's a little retirement gig, you
Yeah,
know,
good on you.
that I'll, pursue with a little bit more vigor in terms of putting my name out there and cultivating a little brand, maybe at the back end of my insurance career. You can't beat it. And the
Yeah.
people that you meet and the sights that you see is probably another book.
Well, you'll have to tell us one day about what the most, I don't wanna say crazy, but the most unusual wedding you've seen.
That'll be the next podcast, Diary of a Wedding Celebrant, or it's yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And I know we've briefly spoken about this before, but if you weren't in insurance, what do you think you would be doing?
Oh, 100% cruise ship director.
Yep.
100%. Yep. Yep. Now, when I was younger, the Love Boat was on TV. So, those that listen to this and who are of a age of similar to me, I'm 55 this year, that sort of captivated me. How cool would
Yep.
that be? I've never actually been on a cruise, but a cruise ship director where you can interact with all the people, you're organizing some stuff, you get to sing on stage and just be part of the entertainment. I mean, that would be very cool. Yeah.
Would be very cool.
Yeah.
Very fun. I have recruited a train driver who was a cruise ship director and became a train driver, and she left in 6 months, went back to the cruises.
Well, the
Didn't wanna stay on land. Okay. And then I was watching it, actually, I thought of you the other day as well, because I was watching a podcast, or listening to a podcast via YouTube. Anyway, the guy, he has a very successful supplement business and he has a gym and all the rest of it. He's loving life. But he said for his alternative career path, he just wants to be the guy at the front of the restaurant welcoming people. He's like, I don't want to operate it. I just want to be at the front.
oh, awesome. Because if you'd said two, that's absolutely my second one. It's
Yeah.
just tuning in and say, oh, hi, Riley, welcome back. You have a little glass of your favorite tipple in the corner. We'll get the oysters out for you. We know you like some of those. How good would that be?
Oh, I
It would just
know.
be so much fun.
Oh, I
Mm,
know.
mm.
Because work is great. It pays the bills and you often have a passion for it. But there's some jobs that you do look at it and you just go, wow, that would be amazing. Like you're just on a high every day, you would hope.
I think you would hope. I mean, I have a reasonably high level of energy and enthusiasm most days, even in doing
Yeah.
insurance. But what I did say to myself early on, and I've done a few bits and bobs over the years, is look for ways if you are naturally outgoing and creative, and I'd say I'm outgoing and mildly creative,
Yeah.
is try to feed that into what you do for work. So the example for me was when I worked for a firm probably about 15 years ago, roughly, is we thought, you know what, we're going to do a talent quest for the staff. Let's do a talent quest. So we went into the
You didn't
boardroom.
love that at all.
No. So it was very simple. There was a boardroom. We created a little band. I was on the bongos and the vocals. You had a lead singer, a guitarist, and put it out to the staff. And someone came up and played the saxophone, and someone told jokes, and it was so much fun. So you fast forward 3 years, and there's progression. To we got sponsorship. We're at a local big pub stage area, lights, cameras, screens, prize money. We created a band that actually sang in the conference of the company that I was working for doing covers, wearing my sort of fake tattoo sleeves and my sunnies inside like it. And it was brilliant. Now, at the end of the day, for that organization, was I known for my insurance broking? Probably not. But I was known as that guy that got it done. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah, but today. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
People love to
awesome.
feed off energy, positive energy in that regard.
They do. They do. Okay. Now, managing, well, actually, I've got a few questions here. Surprise, surprise. I'm also not asking them directly as they're written because why would I follow instructions?
Correct. Yeah. Well played.
Exactly. So, do you have a motto or a personal grind motto that you would sum up your work ethic in, or maybe more of a philosophy around life? Yes.
So much so that I got it tattooed. So I've got Carpe Diem on my arm.
Ah.
So for those, the movie where I got that phrase was the movie Robin Williams did Poet Society. And he talks about Carpe Diem, seize the day. And I watched this years ago and it just struck a chord. I mean, I love him as an actor, but it just struck a chord. And so sometimes you hear people use the phrase, you get out what you put in, for sure. And so I take that further with that phrase, it seize the day. So starting at the gym, doing the best that I can when I'm in that session or whatever that means, and going into work with a real focus on what needs to get done, how can I help, and trying to make the most of every single day. And that's both from being the best I can be because of my career, being the best colleague I can be for those that I'm spending most of my life with in an office. But it's also just so satisfying to try to be the best and put in as much as I can, and then really just see what can come out of it at the back end of it. So carpe diem would be an absolute motto to me.
Awesome. And then you mentioned about getting the best out of every day. So do you have any big goals you're focused on at the moment? Whether it's fitness or and it doesn't have to be the work side of things?
Fitness wise, I because I had a back operation about 4 years ago, so it's really rebuilding. It's not quite. It's probably more expensive than the $6 million man as he was back in the 70s. Oh, Steve Austin. But so there's getting back to that, which somewhere also involves some Pilates, but there's that sort of goal to look good, feel good.
Yep.
And also add into the fact that I'm going to a conference later in the year at Hamilton Island, so one needs to look good and feel good when you're in the pool with the cocktails. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so yeah, that would definitely be one in terms of personal side of things.
Awesome. And so just to close it up, we've gone through your week in a little bit. So you're up at 4:30 every day. You're in the office by 7, did you say?
Yep,
Yep. And
yep.
then you focused on works when you're at work, you're working, and then at the end of the day, you get home, family life, and then you've got to add in all the extra stuff in there, just logistics of getting the shopping done and being there for everyone as well. So is that like, do you have times where you're feeling a bit, well, not burnt out, but feeling a bit worn out maybe at the end of the week, and you've got a way to reset, or any sort of practices that you implement to get yourself back up and about?
Yes, and it took a while to get myself to that because I think there's a level of self-awareness that you're heading down the burnt out road. So, particularly middle management, young family, you'd survive to the summer holidays, you
Mm.
go to a top 10 holiday park, and the way it took about 4 days, de-stress is just no work, a good John Grisham book, nothing too heavy, and just sitting and just clearing the head. That was a great way to do it. These days, you get home and then I'm out, go and sit on the deck, the fresh air, and put on the headphones and you just listen to a really sort of motivational podcast of some description and just sort of closing your eyes and just sort of clearing the head and just sort of resetting the mind again. I find is quite important to me. Even little things, just turning off at the end of the night. You've had a meal and you just sit down and you just sort of might watch something on TV, which is cool. And then the last thing at night, what I've started to do, which is sort of to stave off the potential onset of dementia, is to pull out the old crosswords.
Oh, look at.
Put on the old man's reading glasses so I can actually see it, and then just for the old mind, and just off the phone, off the TV, off anything that's plugged or charged, and then I'm just sort of doing some crosswords, and then I've zenned, not that I'm into the zenned, but just zone myself down to a point where then I can just go to bed and I've semi-decluttered myself to reset for the next day.
Oh, that's
Mm.
perfect, that's perfect. They do say about that, like, get rid of all the blue light and everything as you're winding down, and then also the crosswords. I bought a crossword book the other day. I haven't opened it. I'll be honest. So, do you have any recommendations for books or podcasts? So, you mentioned John Grisham just
Yeah,
before.
I'm not a huge. I mean, when I say I'm not a huge reader, I love to read. So, but what I tend to do, it'll be something not too heavy. That's uh, a John Grisham or a David Baldacci type of novel thing. So
Yeah,
there's that. I love reading books from sporting stars or leaders. So, reading a book about a captain of a All Blacks rugby team, or the book about Steve Jobs, or the
yeah,
book about the very troubled but incredible artiste of Robin Williams, and just getting into them. And out of that, I learn a lot of things about their experiences and their mottos, and the way that they focus. You can't follow everyone on what they say, but I really
no,
enjoy that style of variety in the read. But I'm not a avid reader. So
yeah.
what I've tended to do over the last couple of years is got into this podcast thing. Um, you
Good
know,
on you.
yeah, there's one that's done out of Ballarat, which is actually really good, that I really enjoy. Listening to. I can't remember the name of it though. Um,
It's trying to get back off the ground, though. It's been a little bit patchy, I hear,
oh, bring it back, sister.
but it's
Bring it
coming
back.
back.
Good, good.
Oh,
And then
good.
beneath that mountaintop of podcast is I do like to listen to Steve Bartlett, Diary of a CEO,
Oh,
and then
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. And if I want something a little bit shorter, I mean, there's a couple in New Zealand that are called Between Two Beers, two guys that have really built up a really good podcast over the last 2 or 3 years that interview business and sports people, and that you really learn a lot about the way that those individuals have attacked their life,
Yeah,
what's impacted them, and how they've dealt with it. And then the third one would be one called Leaders Getting Coffee, and it's less than an hour, and it's business leaders in New Zealand, and I find that incredibly insightful, both techniques for me as an individual and as a
yeah.
leader, but also gets me into the psyche of some of the clients and brokers that I deal with as well. So it gives me a roundabout sort of view. So yeah, those would be the ones that sort of pop in. There's others that you sort of dive in and dive out of, but those would be regulars.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. So they certainly sound like ones that you're not putting in to help you go to sleep. You're learning something from them.
No, you know what? I used to, um, my two youngest in particular, Kobe and Shalice, they'll put on the old rain noise, which is cool. I tried the rain, rivers, waves, crackling fires, and then I just sort of lay there thinking about swimming, marshmallows. It just didn't work for me. So the crossword, lack of blue light, and just being old just sends me off to sleep. Fine.
Well, that's perfect. That's perfect. Whatever works for you, right? I use
Exactly.
earplugs because someone snores. So I've got a loop earplugs. Shout out for anyone who needs good ones. They block
Oh,
everything out. Yep.
gotcha. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So that covers all of the questions that I had. But is there anything else that you wanted to cover off before we wrap up?
In terms of career, it's what you put in. And for me, it was a lot of the success was around making connections with people. You learn your trade. So you learn insurance, you do your papers, do your job well, but the personalities and the connections and the relationships that you build, and we're not talking, greasing up to your boss, not at all, but just being that person who you are really helped me in terms of my career around progression and where I was heading, what I was doing. And the other thing in terms of a leader, as a person, as a colleague, is a technique that I really like to put into practice called active listening. And where that's really about when someone's coming to have a conversation with you, colleague, boss, friend, whatever situation you may be in on the day, when they come to you, it's having them as a center of attention. It's essentially sort of even leaning into the conversation. In that moment, you are focus solely on what they are saying, as opposed to a lot of the time they'll come and have a chat to you, and within about 5 seconds, you're either formulating an answer to the question that they're asking you before they've even finished, or you're thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner tonight. So for me, it's about active listening is a great technique because in the end, that person at the end of that conversation and however that ends has felt like they're valued, they've been heard, they'll come to you again. And that was a really powerful conversation moment for them. And it should be the same for you. And the trigger for me, when that person right at the start comes in and you can see they're going to ask you a question, is I just take my hands off the keyboard. I look at them as they come in and I say, how can I help? Something I learned. Do I do it every day successfully? Probably not. But I think if
Rather
some
you.
of us can just knock that off and make that part of what we do in our interactions and connections, I think we're hashtag winning in some way.
Perfect, perfect. That sounds like a really great piece of advice, especially to, well, not just for aspiring leaders, but for anyone. You are absolutely smashed with information on a daily basis, and everybody's got their things, their agenda. We all have a slightly different agenda of what we need to get done. So, people, when they're
Mm.
coming to you with something, they're definitely looking for something. So, sometimes they're not very good at articulating what that is. So,
Yeah,
you're
a hundred,
addressing.
100%. And reflect it back, that most people, when they come and talk to their boss, are looking for the boss to give them the answer.
Yeah.
So you hear them say and they raise it, and then it's like, well, what do you think we should do? Oh, okay. Is
Yes.
that the time? Yeah. So yeah, those little things I think have been quite useful for me in my career anyway, and will be till I go into my full-time marriage celebrant role.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll help you create a Wix website.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Grind Life. We really, really appreciate it. Not just me, but also the listeners as well. I have had a number of messages from people saying, like, what are you doing? Get it back.
Mm.
So that's
Good.
good. That's good
Yeah.
news. Um, so we will leave it there. So thank you very much, Andrew. And if people want to find you, where can they do that?
The easiest way would be on LinkedIn if they
Yep.
want to find me from a professional capacity under Andrew Brooks and working for insurance advising. So they can find me on the LinkedIn and follow their nose and want to reach out and have a chat about something, do it.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
It is great to hear you back. Looking forward to the new season as much as I enjoy watching Yellowstone. Even more, bring it on.